So, welcome to everyone. I think we'll start with meditation and then we'll have a chance to say hello to each other and share some Dhamma and discussion. So find a comfortable position, the spine straight. Bring your attention to your breathing. When we sit down to meditate, we can begin by checking in with our body, how it's feeling. If there's any tightness or tension. And adjust our posture a little bit at the beginning so that we're very comfortable. The way I said that, it sounded like lounging in your favorite chair, but that's not what I meant. Just sitting or lying down in a way that's conducive to the energy of the body flowing freely. So that would mean the spine is relatively straight. For anyone, excuse me, for anyone who does energy work, you might, or some kind of qigong, yoga, tai chi, you might have developed that ability to feel when the spine is straight, when those energy channels are open and free. Usually it requires a little bit of a rolling of the pelvis forward so that the spine is straight there on the bottom side, on the bottom end, and maybe having the chin pulled back a little bit and down to open up the back of the neck, but in a way that's natural, comfortable. Taking some long breaths in and out can help to release some chemicals or invite the parasympathetic nervous system to engage. It has a calming effect. And as you breathe in, you can imagine the energy of the breath going through the entire body. I mean, it does, after all, we know. Oxygen enters and makes its way out to all the cells. But this isn't an intellectual idea. This is, or a scientific discovery. It's a feeling that's actually invited or evoked or led by the mind. So the mind is actually led by imagination. We imagine the breath energy coming in, the breath coming in with filled with energy and going, dispersing through the whole body. The imagination leads the mind, and the mind leads the chi, the energy. And you might come to actually feel that sensation, maybe a subtle tingling or pleasant feeling that pervades the body. And if it doesn't feel like anything to you, no worries, just breathe in, breathe out, being aware of the breath. And feel the relaxing of the body's muscles and tendons, feeling the unloosening of the body, the loosening, the unbinding of the body. And breathing in, experiencing the whole body, and breathing out, experiencing the whole body. And there's continuous effort of a kind, but it's subtle, it's soft. It's just very steady presence with whatever is happening in the body. Steady presence with the breath, whether it's flowing in or flowing out. And we can feel the difference. We don't have to think about it as in or out, but we can feel what it feels like to breathe in, and we can feel what it feels like to breathe out. And we can intentionally calm the body and all of its processes. And of course, there are practitioners who can calm the heart to the point where you can't detect the beat. You can calm the breath to the point where it seems imperceptible. Where if someone comes along, there are these stories in the suttas, someone comes along and it seems like this person is dead. They're sitting in meditation. They're actually just in a very deep state of samadhi. They've learned how to let the body become so calm. When Ajahn Chah stopped breathing and the medical staff got really worried, wanted to revive him, and one of the monks that could know Ajahn Chah's mind said, no, he's in samadhi. He doesn't need to breathe. As long as you feel the breath, stay present with it, in and out. It comes to a point where you can't feel the breath, just stay with the body. Stay with that calm emptiness. And of course, at that point, the mind is likely to be also very, very calm. But if it isn't at that point, then we can invite the mind to also become calm. First being present with the mind as it actually is, and then inviting it to become calm. In the teachings, there's always this acknowledgement first of the way things are at the moment. It's a kind of permission and to see and to be exactly as it is, to see what's there, to know, and we can always bring kindness to that, whatever is happening. A kind of kind acceptance. And then invite the improvement, invite the calm, invite the clarity. Being calm and being clear is not in any way floating, foggy, drowsy state. You're present and aware and happy. And the mind is capable of such beautiful states, and that those states actually lead to awakening. And it doesn't have to be so very, very deep. As some of the arahants say, you can just be just calm enough to not be distracted by whatever might be going on in the background, in the environment or in the mind. Thoughts might arise, but when they're in the background and they don't disturb the calm, no need to pay attention to them at all. And be present with that sense of calm and clarity. There's a brightness in the mind that allows us to observe what arises in that calm space. And the whole time we can be present with the breath, helping us go deeper, become clearer, peaceful and happy, curious about what may arise, what may reveal itself that we haven't seen before. Don't let anything distract you when you meditate. It's not worth it. When the mind starts to float away, turn away, get pulled away, just come back to what you know is more important. And this is not only to help you get through life, this is for changing your life in a way that goes beyond this world. And this is mindfulness. This is samadhi. This is panya. They all work together. No state of samadhi is without mindfulness. If images come into the mind, most of them are meaningless. Let them go. Just observing their coming and their going and not getting involved. But sometimes something comes with a Dhamma message, then take it in. If it's showing you the Dhamma, look, observe, understand. Don't try to accomplish anything. It's just more becoming. Just be present and observe. Calm, peaceful, alert. Welcome back. Could you hear me while you were meditating? Okay. And you could hear the bell. Yeah. I know bells don't come across Zoom very well. They're kind of like a thud.
I actually, our group did find a way that can be fixed. And,
Oh,
you have to change some settings, and then the bell tone comes through. So I'll see if I can get those instructions and forward them.
thank you. That's very helpful, Linda. Okay, so today we're going to talk about right mindfulness. And I think it's pretty important that we do, even though we've probably heard a lot about it already, and we've been talking about it for a few weeks in our Sutta study group. And the reason I think it's important is because, it's such a great thing that mindfulness has become so popular and mainstream. And, now instead of many places in America, it used to be that if you talked about meditation in a public school, people got upset. But they can talk about mindfulness now, I think, almost everywhere. It's so accepted. And it's important for us as practitioners, and I think of myself as a disciple of the Buddha or student of the Dhamma, that we come back to what the Buddha said about mindfulness and come back to our practical experience of it also, to really take in how versatile it is as a tool for the mind, or maybe that's not quite the right way to express it. It's not like the mindfulness itself is versatile. It's the application of mindfulness that can lead to so many different kinds of wholesome states and help us to deal with unwholesome states and experiences, even those that are quite hard, quite heavy, quite dramatic, quite traumatic. Mindfulness is a key to being able to move through those experiences with grace, confidence, health, and to be able to recover from things that have happened to us. And also helps us to change our habits and patterns. So it's so fundamental. And of course, the main sutta on mindfulness, the foundations of mindfulness, are found in the Majjhima Nikaya and also in the Digha Nikaya. And as you probably already know, the Buddha gives many different forms. Excuse me. Because we're mindful of something when we're mindful. And he gives, the four main ones: the body, feeling, the mind itself, the citta, and the principles, or the Dhamma. And within those categories or groups, there are other aspects that we can pay attention to and be present with. And this, of course, has been written about and talked about many, many times, and I'm not going to go into the details of that here. I thought I would bring out a little bit more about mindfulness that we see in the suttas in other places. And I think I might just share the screen. of my notes. Sometimes it's easier to read along, I think. So, right mindfulness, Majjhima Nikaya 10, the 4 establishments. I like establishments or foundations. Form, so not just the body, any material form. Feeling, the mind, chitta, the Dhamma, those 4 categories. But we can also look at what the Buddha says about mindfulness in Majjhima Nikaya 141. And here, as soon as I move my view of you in a way that I can see it, there we go. The exposition of truths in the 30th paragraph, it says, and what, friends, is right mindfulness? Here, this is Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, or probably more likely Venerable Nyanamoli's translation, edited by Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi. But instead of bhikkhu, we could just put mendicant, or we could just put practitioner. So here a practitioner abides contemplating the body as a body. So what does it mean to contemplate a body as a body? It's just a body. It's not my body, just a body. Ardent, really paying attention, really putting the energy there, being fully aware, so that, the mindfulness is sharp, full, and mindful, having put away covetousness or desire and grief for the world. So putting away longing and grief, longing and a sense of loss for the world, any kind of like wanting to pull it towards us or wanting to push it away is set aside. Then this one abides contemplating feelings as feelings. How quickly when we feel something does it go into something else about me and mine and what this means to me and how is this going to be for me, and all of those things. And again, ardent, fully aware and mindful, putting away longing and grief for the world, contemplating the mind as mind. This is just the mind. What is the state of the mind? Contemplating, we've talked in Sutta study, mind objects is a little bit hard to get kind of a feeling for. But when we think about Dhammas, it's not just any old thought. There is a way of looking at this where people will say, but you can have mindfulness of any kind of mental activity. That is true. That's part of, I've put that in the mind category myself. But it's like in the Satipatthana Sutta, the Sutta on the foundations of mindfulness, the Buddha is clearly talking about principles of Dhamma. So we're looking at the principles of Dhamma. And when we're observing that with this kind of attention, it's not only kind of understanding the meaning at an intellectual level, but allowing that to really find expression or fullness in our feeling of it, in the heart, in the body, in the being, that you really understand that Dhamma principle. And this is the sort of a way of expressing or experiencing these 4 categories of things to be mindful of and present with. And you can see how the sampajanya, or the wisdom, is a part of it. It's mindfulness is really most effective when it has wisdom and kindness attending to it, when that's also present. In fact, mindfulness without wisdom can be wrong mindfulness. Most of the time when the Buddha talked about mindfulness, he also included sampajanya. So sati, sampajanya. Sampajanya is clear seeing, wisdom. Then we have this sutta in the Middle Length Discourses called the Great 40. We've looked at other parts of it before, number 117. And it's talking about right view, first and foremost. And it says, when one makes an effort to abandon wrong view and to enter upon right view, this is one's right effort. So he's showing that right effort in developing right view. Mindfully, one abandons wrong view. Mindfully, one enters upon and abides in right view. This is one's right mindfulness. Thus, these three states run and circle around right view. That is, right view, right effort, and right mindfulness. They work together. So it's useful to see this is how we can apply it in our day-to-day experience. We have, something arising, something painful based on something we've heard or seen or thought. And then, where does the wrong view or right view arise? It's if it goes down the track of, how could they say that to me? How could they do that to each other? I mean, there's a certain amount of acknowledgement of what's unwholesome, of course, and what's painful and what's harmful. But then if it becomes, riddled with indignation, anger, resentment, then, the right view is to step back from that and not take that personally, not think of it as something that's happening to me, but to recognize the results of unwholesome karma, and that it's basically not your problem, not our problem. Someone else is doing something unwholesome, or things just happen that we don't like. Then right view helps us to see that this is the way things are in the world. I'm not the only one who experiences this. And what can I do to see this in a right way? So right view, right effort, and right mindfulness working together. And then we see the same thing being said about intention, like how we can abandon wrong intention and enter upon right intention. So if you recall, that's, keeping our mind on what's, letting go rather than sensual desire, on what's goodwill or kindness rather than ill will, and harmlessness rather than, or even compassion rather than cruelty. So right intention is also dependent upon right effort and right mindfulness. These all have to work together. So again, to create right intention, we have to have right view, right effort, and right mindfulness. So since our topic today is right mindfulness, we can see how integral it is to the other aspects of the Noble Eightfold Path, even though we've been talking about the other components. Now we get to right mindfulness as the seventh, but it actually was essential all along the way. Same with speech, same with action, same with livelihood. So it's really important to recognize how developing this ability to be present and aware and bring in wisdom and kindness is so essential to our development. I think that's the last of it. Yeah. So essential to our development of the mind and the happiness of our life. That we actually can see major changes occurring as we consistently use mindfulness, wisdom, and kindness. And this can be directed towards anyone or any state or anything, including and needs to be also including ourselves, directed towards our own minds and our own behavior, that we can, acknowledge when we make mistakes and learn from them and let them go, and have a sense of kindness around the way we speak to ourselves and around the way we guide ourselves. And one of the things that I may have mentioned before that I find inspiring and encouraging and makes me happy is just to watch practitioners move through the process for over years or decades and see the development and how kind they become. It's just such a natural outgrowth of committed practice, this kind of kindness blossoming. And even, to be in the presence of someone who's come to that point is such a joy. It's a gift. And we all have that ability. And this is why is this right mindfulness the thing that comes just before right samadhi? Yeah, thank you, Karen. Hope to see you next year. This is our last session for Saturdays. Yeah, take care. So we have right mindfulness just before right samadhi, because right mindfulness is a essential component to samadhi. So when Venerable Sariputta, I can't tell you exactly which sutta this is at the moment, but I think it's called something like something about one by one. It's later in the Majjhima Nikaya. It's in the sort of towards the end. Someone will find it while I'm talking, I bet. But anyway, whether you do or not, you can. He talks about the components that are present in each state of jhana, like whatever, each level of samadhi. And mindfulness is always there, has to be. You have to be present in order to be calm and in that kind of spiritual state, mental state. And you're aware. So if you have states in meditation that are kind of floaty or excuse me, hazy, pull yourself out of that. You can waste a lot of time in there, and it really doesn't provide much benefit. So it's really that we are aware of what's happening when it's happening, even when we can't move or speak or hear anything. The mindfulness is still there, bright. So that's kind of what I wanted to share. There's probably a lot more that could be said, and I have said at various times about using mindfulness when we're in, challenging emotional state. It's like that's the first step, the key. When we're mindful of something, we're not caught up in it. We're observing it. And so much distress comes from feeling like we're awash in something, that we're caught up in it, that we're unable to become free of it. But when we establish mindfulness, when we step back and we look at what we're experiencing, we're immediately somewhat separated from it. And this is what the Buddha tried to encourage, to the point where, we're so separated from feeling, we're so separated from the physical body, we're so separated from thought that arises in the mind, that we have the immediate choice of whether or not to follow it, to attend to it, or what to do with it. We have the immediate experience of, not being dragged down and afflicted, he would say, in the mind, even though the body is afflicted, even though there are emotions, they dissipate like, I don't know, I can't think of the similes that he used, but like a spark flying out of the fire and it just goes out. I guess I could think of the simile. The spark flies out of the fire and falls on the dirt and just immediately goes out. That's the way it is. And that's because of mindfulness. And it's attendant, essential qualities of wisdom and kindness. So, any questions or thoughts on this? Yes, Memo.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Ayya, for this talk. It was great, and the meditation was lovely. I want to ask, in mindfulness, I think it's really important, the role that we give to being mindful also about the hindrances, right? And that's part of the contemplation of Dhammas. Could you elaborate a little bit on that, please?
Yeah. So definitely when we meditate, because the hindrances are really related to our meditation. I mean, they're a hindrance outside of meditation too, but mostly it's discussed as part of meditation. And when we're meditating, we want to be aware of what's happening with the mind. What is our state of mind? And if it's a mind caught up in desire, we can't become calm and lucid. It's and of course, again, you can see how that's true in our daily life. It's like if we're caught up in desire, we can't see straight. We can't make good decisions. We're driven by desire. And when the Buddha talked about, how to evaluate a teacher in Majjhima Nikaya 95 in the Chanki Sutta, he says, really observe them to see if they're caught up in desire, sensual desire, and if they would ever say or do anything driven by that would bring people to harm or point them in the wrong direction. And so it's very important that we're mindful of that, and mindful of that regardless when we're meditating or not. And the same with ill will. The second hindrance that usually in the list, that's the second one. It's the same thing exactly. To be present and aware, oh, there's ill will. Sometimes we say things or we do things and there's an edge to it. And we think that it's right to have an edge to it because there's something going wrong, or there's somebody's not doing the right things or saying the right things. And actually we don't realize that that edge that comes from ill will, that comes from that negativity, is actually training the mind. There's an actual, continuing to kind of foster an attitude, a mental state that's detrimental in the long run. And this has nothing to do with kind of being asleep about or confused about what really is wholesome or unwholesome. We need to know what's unwholesome. We can know that what someone's saying or doing or promoting or what's happening is unwholesome, and be clear about that. Again, mindfulness has to be there for that. And we can notice that in our own mind, and we need to notice it in our own mind. So when we're meditating and we feel ill will, there's this desire to get away from something, push something away, to really recognize that this pushing away is just as detrimental as the pulling towards us. And if we can be mindful of it, that's like opening the door. That's like opening the door to freedom, because as soon as we're mindful and present, then we can bring in our wisdom, right view. We can bring in the soothing of the heart that makes it possible to let that go, to put it down. But always first, mindfulness has to be there to acknowledge, oh, this is actually ill will. This is actually resentment, or whatever form it takes, and to be able to let that go. And then, we have sloth and torpor, and restlessness and worry, and they're really two sides of exactly the same problem. We're not happy when we're experiencing those, and we're not content. And so how can we develop that happiness and contentment? Sometimes we have to look at the larger landscape of our life in order to see that, I had a period of time when I was an anagarika where every time I sat down to meditate, I'd fall asleep. And some of that was just exhaustion because it was a lot of hard work, but a lot of it was just being unhappy. And there were, once you can identify that, then you can start to understand the reasons for that unhappiness. And then change something. The Buddha's like, if you're in a place where, you're that's what's happening to you, that your mind, the wholesome states are decreasing and the unwholesome states are increasing, leave. It's like, do something else. Basically put in the causes and conditions that are going to lead to supportive environment for your mind, that you can, some of it's all internal, habits that we've developed or learned, maybe even very early on in our life. And it's mindfulness that helps us to see that, what we kind of, you might say, inherited from our environment or from our past lives. Who knows? Maybe we wound up in that environment because of things that happened in our past lives that we're still having to work out. So seeing it, being aware, oh yeah, this sloth and torpor, this isn't about being tired and physically needing sleep. This sloth and torpor is about being bored, or the sloth and torpor is about being discontented or unhappy. There's something there that deserves attention. And then, the restlessness is the same thing. It's like we can often flip from the sloth and torpor to the restlessness and back again. Restlessness and regret, why does the mind go to those things? It's not happy. It's not accepting life as it is. recognizing that this is the way Dhamma is, aging, sickness, death, things get lost, things get broken, mistakes get made, like, can we just be okay with that? And if not, why? There's going to be no end to it if we're not okay with that. So it's a real practice, and mindfulness is like one of the essential components to recognize it and then to work with it. And of course, doubt also, we have to be mindful this is doubt. We have to first diagnose the problem before you can procure and apply the correct medicine. And when there's doubt, the remedy is investigation, and it's also seeking the wisdom of a teacher, good friends who are wise and compassionate. And that's usually how we can help relieve the doubt. But we might have, any one of these can be a particularly gnarly problem for us, depending on our personalities and excuse me, that phone is going to the next room. Any one of these can be a particular challenge for us, depending on our conditioning. And that's, that's all right. That's what we got. That's what we're going to work our way through. That is going to be the key to our awakening. So what else? That's good. Yes, Val.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more about the state of meditation. I think you referred to it as floaty, and how you can waste a lot of time there.
Yeah. Sometimes that kind of mental state during meditation feels, well, like you can't tell whether you were asleep or not. It might be, the mind kind of drifting from one thought to another, but not with this kind of rapid thinking. Like sometimes the intensity, the restlessness can keep us like engaged in work, or the future to-do list, or what people said to us, or what we want to say to them, or whatever. That's kind of the restless mind, not settling down. But the other one, the sloth and torpor side, that can be kind of a, you feel like you're really relaxed, but you're kind of hazy. It's not clarity, it's not presence, it's not bright. It's just like kind of hazy and kind of coasting and floating. You're not really sure what's going on, and you're not really present. You're certainly not observing. Oh, thank you, Lynn. Hope to see you next year. Yeah, so that hazy, floaty feeling, you're not really progressing with that. It's just a time sink, and what can we do? Well, we can bring up some energy, even like sort of put attention at the base of the spine and pull energy up the back of the spine. pull it up back of the spine and over the head and just let it go in an orbit around. It's like, this is a common Qigong practice, for example, and so you bring that energy up, clear out those channels, bring up something inspiring in the mind. Sometimes we really have to shake it off, get up and do walking meditation or something, but there's a reason behind it. If this is going on regularly or frequently, there's a reason behind it, and we need to look at why we're not happy. What is the nature of our discontent, and really see what to do. Is that clearer, Val, about the state itself?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I kind of figured it was related to sloth and torpor, or it was part of it, but I wasn't positive. So yeah. Thank you.
Sure. I mean, regardless of what category we put things in, we start to get a sense based on the Buddha's definitions and how he explains things and the things he says about the remedies, what we're really looking for, what we're really kind of guiding the mind towards and developing the skill. And we're developing that skill and coming to a tranquility of the body, tranquility of the mind, such that we can be still enough that wisdom can arise from that silence. So, like these kind of sequences of qualities or experiences that the Buddha talks about, experiencing piti and sukha and tranquility and, like leading up to these things that all lead up to samadhi. And then you're at samadhi, it's like you're at the pinnacle, there's the mountain, you're at the top. And then what happens? It's yata bhuta jnana dasana. You're I think that's the one. You're seeing things as they actually are. Well, it's not the full, now you're enlightened thing yet, but you get an insight into the true nature of reality, like recognizing impermanence. And then you start to lose. So then it's almost like I think of it as kind of like you're starting down the mountain, but it's a wonderful descent into letting go, letting the fading of desire, the fading of this entanglement in the world, and you start to experience this dispassion, the disenchantment, the actual letting go, and then this is a process that occurs, and it brings happiness and joy. I mean, there was already joy going up the mountain because of those lovely mental states. But then the joy coming down the mountain is like, wow, nothing can really touch this joy. I'm not depending on anything in the world anymore. Yeah. Neil?
What was the name again of that state that you described as being at the top of the mountain?
Oh, it was just samadhi.
No, I thought you said something like yata something dasana.
Jnana dasana. Let me see if I've got the document around here that I can show you. Okay, I'm getting there. This is the Upanisa Sutta. Let me see. I'm going to share this with you, and then I'm going to scroll like crazy, so I hope you don't get sick to your stomach. Bodhi calls it transcendental co-arising, I think, or something like transcendental dependent arising. The translation and exposition of the Upanisa Sutta. And there's all this where he describes it. I'm going to try to go directly to, let's see, I'm going to go to this part, I think. Oops. I'm trying to look for the list of, sorry. Nope. It's not
Did you
really
do, did you do control click?
I did,
Oh, okay.
because I'm in a document here that, sorry, back up to the top for a minute. Is this actually what I was looking for? Yeah, this is Bhikkhu Bodhi's. The Upanisa Sutta. I just don't know if the Pali is in here. But this gives you all the conditions. Okay, and he's going backwards here. This is the knowledge of destruction with respect to the destruction. Oh, that's terrible. This is the knowledge of the complete destruction of the taints. And that's it's emancipation that leads to that. Dispassion leads to the emancipation or freedom of the mind. The disenchantment leads to the dispassion. The knowledge and vision of things as they really are is what leads to that disenchantment. Jnana, Bhuta, no, Yata Bhuta Jnana Dasana, I think is the Pali. Knowledge and vision of things as they really are. And that comes because of samadhi. So he's got concentration here, but that comes because of the samadhi.
We're not seeing what you're seeing. We're just still seeing the beginning of the article.
Oh,
I'm not sure why.
oh. Are you seeing me highlight things?
No, well, I'm not. I'm just seeing contents.
Oh, okay. Sometimes how it didn't like that. Oh, thank you for telling me that. It's stuck. Okay, we'll stop sharing. I have this in some very concise notes somewhere, but that obviously isn't there. Let's see if I can find another option. Nope. There was a time when I had this on the tip of my tongue, but it isn't today. Anyway, it can be found, probably Wikipedia is a really good place to look. No, I'm not locating it. Sorry. Anyway, there's this sequence of qualities as if steps. And it starts with let's see, wait a minute. I know what to do. Ah. Okay. Give me a second. Oops. Even that is not working. Oh, sorry. Uh-oh.
It's okay. I didn't mean to
Oh,
make.
wait, I think I found it. Wait. Vital conditions. Okay, here we go. Now I'm going to share the screen and I bet it's going to work. There we go. Okay, this is the Upanisa Sutta. This is number 23 in the Samyutta Nikaya, the Linked Discourses, book 12, 1223. And he says, the ending of defilements is for one who knows and sees. What does one know and see? Form, the origination of form, feeling, perception, consciousness. And the ending of defilements. To see those things as they actually are. So I say that the knowledge of ending is a vital condition. So it has a vital condition. And that vital condition, so you know that you've finished. You know that you're not subject to any of the taints anymore. And the condition that causes that is the freedom, the vimutti. And what is it that makes it possible for freedom? It's the dispassion, it's the viraga. And what is it that makes the viraga, the dispassion possible? It's the disenchantment or disillusionment. It's the nibbida. Weariness, disenchantment, dissatisfaction. And how it's a dissatisfaction with the clinging and craving in the world, the continual, striving for something. So this is the word I was trying to say before, the yata bhuta jnana dasana. This is truly knowing and seeing. This is seeing things as they are. And what does that come from? So that's the definition. What does it come from? Immersion. It comes from samadhi. And how do you come to samadhi? It's through sukha, bliss, happiness. And that comes because of tranquility, which is passaddhi. And tranquility is dependent upon piti, rapture, joy. And that's dependent upon pamoja, another kind of joy, another kind of uplift, spiritual happiness. And that's dependent upon faith. And faith is what arises from suffering. So when we're suffering, like I said before, when we have a particular challenge with something, that becomes our key to awakening. That becomes the basis. And the suffering, wherever it comes from, aging, sickness, death, loss, whatever, that is the key, as long as we strike out in the right direction with a sense that there's a way out of this, that faith, that confidence, that there's a way out of this. That's how it moves up the chain. So number 23. So 1223 in the Samyutta Nikaya. It's a wonderful sutta. It's a wonderful idea. And the Buddha talks about it in other ways too. Anything else? Well, in that case, I'll wish you a happy rest of the year. It's always the joke, right? On the 31st of December, people say, I'll see you next year. But here she is on November 13th, ready to go into her little hidey hole and stay there. And yeah, and so you can get in touch with us if you need anything by writing to kbvsteward@karunabv.org, and Andy will tell us if it's something we need to do or she can help you. Yes, Linda?
I just wanted to say that I read the newsletter that you sent out during the week, and I just felt so much joy for Andy and the
Yes.
and the commitment she's making and joining the monastery. So
Yeah, we are so happy. And that will happen in the middle of the retreat. We're gonna, experience a lot of joy around that. And I hope you can join us for that. I don't think we put a link in the newsletter. Did we put a link, Zoom link in the newsletter?
Okay.
So you're going to have to watch the website homepage.
It's like 2 p.m.
We'll put a link in there for the Zoom room.
yeah, I'm going to be involved in a family visit during that, and I'm going to try very, very hard to still participate. And whether I do or not, I will be participating in spirit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ditto. Yeah, I have a family visit that time too, but I will try. Have a lovely retreat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, could I just check in and make sure that people are okay with sharing their shares online? So it's Memo, Val, Neil, and then Linda at the end. Is everybody okay?
Yeah. Great.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you for recording in Forrest's absence for all these weeks. And
It was a pleasure.
and I should let you know that the Wednesday evening meetings are going to continue, and Phil and Philip and Linda and Val are going to be hosting them, and they're going to be using recordings. It's going to be, they're going to be using recordings, a couple of recordings of Bhikkhu Bodhi talking about different suttas will be involved, and there'll be other things, and then playing a recording. There won't be the chanting in as usual, but playing the recording and discussing it. So
And this will be accessed through the same link that from your page, right?
yeah, it'll be the usual sutta study link. Yeah. Yes, Regina.
I put something in the chat, and I wasn't going to say anything because I'm not sure if it contributes, but I put a little passage in the chat, and I'd be interested whether this passage points more or less with sometimes different words in the same direction as the sutta that you just pointed out to us.
Okay, so I'm just going to read it out loud and we'll see where it goes. Discipline is for the sake of restraint. Restraint for the sake of freedom from remorse. Freedom from remorse for the sake of joy. Joy for the sake of rapture. Yes, this is very much the same idea. The beginning of this chain is different in different places where it appears. I'm sure the Buddha in his 45 years talked about this many times, and and could identify that a lot of times it's sila or virtue at the bottom, at the base. So joy for the sake of rapture, rapture for the sake of tranquility, tranquility for the sake of pleasure, which is a spiritual pleasure, not a worldly pleasure. Pleasure for the sake of concentration or samadhi, which is for the sake of knowledge and vision of things as they are. Yata Bhuta Jnana Dasana. And the
What is that
knowledge and
reference
vision-
at? I'm sorry, what is that reference at the end? PV? I don't recognize that.
the reference of the end.
Is that the name of the sutta?
No. It's being pulled from, I think, something commentarial.
Yeah.
But this, do
Sorry.
you know, Regina?
Well, I just learned this passage by heart, and so I put into Google "discipline is for the sake of restraint," and then a commentary pulled up, and I just put that little quote in there because I can't type that quickly, you know.
Yeah, that's fine. But this is also in the suttas. And yeah, for the sake of disenchantment, as let's see, knowledge and vision of things as they are, knowledge and vision of things as they are is for the sake of disenchantment, disenchantment for the sake of dispassion, dispassion for the sake of release, release for the sake of knowledge and vision of release, knowledge and vision of release for the sake of total unbinding without clinging. And I think it's interesting. It's like you realize nibbana, but then you have to realize that you realized it. You know that you've realized it. And then you're really free. And that's a lovely way to end. Okay, so take care, everyone. And I wish you well in your practice and in everything in your life. And we hope to see you again.